It's day 2 at the Atlas Games. 2 more events await the athletes looking to move on to Madison. The top 5 men and top 5 women at the end of the weekend will head to the 2021 Noble CrossFit Games. Thanks for being with us, everybody. I'm Sean Woodland with Annie Sakamoto, and we start with the men's competition where Pat Vellner and Dane Smith are tied atop the overall leaderboard with 176 points, and Samuel Cournoyer and Adam Davidson tied for 4th. They are both 8 points up on Jeffrey Adler for that 5th and final qualifying spot to the games. Event number 3, a ton of muscle ups, a bunch of double unders with some dumbbell front rack lunges in there as well. A lot of work, but it really, Annie, comes down to those muscle ups.
Yeah, there's 600 double unders, but like you said, it really comes down to the 60 muscle ups, how you're gonna break those up, and doing it in a way that will allow you to get back on the rings and get some big sets. If you're Yonakoski last week, it's just 6 sets, 60 reps and 6 sets, no big deal.
Let's get you out to our featured matchup for the men. Chase Ingram and Tanya Wagner are on the call, and they have your box assignments presented by CBD MD.
Event number 3 for the individual men set to get underway as you have 6 of your top guys on the screen, left to right, top to bottom. Pat Vellner, Dane Smith, Phil Toon. Bottom row, you have Samuel Cournoyer, Jeffrey Adler, and rounding out your 6th man on the screen, Alex Vigneault in the bottom right part of your screen. I'm Chase Ingham. Alongside of me is Tanya Wagner as we get set for one of the highest volume muscle-up events we have ever seen in CrossFit competition. And Tanya, when you look at this on paper right away, what are the keys that you're looking at for this particular event?
With those total of 60 muscle-ups, this event is all about the endurance that you have there for the muscle-ups. So you have to know your sets and be smart early on with breaking them up so that you can minimize your rest time. And then also with the larger volume of the double unders at 300, then 200 and 100, you just need to make sure that you don't tank your lungs on them because you have to go back to those muscle ups and you don't want anything to affect those sets that you're looking to do.
Your overall leader after 2 events that we had yesterday, Patrick Vellner in the upper left corner of your screen. At the top of every box, you will see a progress bar. That red will start to fill up more and more along the gray, and that shows how far they've gotten in this event. Now, this is another high volume event that we have for this virtual semifinal series for the 2021 Atlas Games. And we were talking earlier, Tanya, is that 60 ring muscle ups and 600 double unders are 2 of the most we have ever seen programmed in CrossFit competition.
And we're really happy to see this because I love that we're testing the double unders, like we talked about offline, that we love that they're testing these double unders at a more appropriate volume to actually make a difference within the events. So we really will see athletes strategize now. What is the pace they're going to pick for the double unders? How are they going to break them up? When will they break them up? And what will the fatigue be as opposed to a smaller number where really it's just more of an annoyance? This matters at this volume.
It's usually, smaller sets of double unders that are in there as almost like a placeholder or an annoyance if you're very good at them. But this type of volume, 300, 200, 100, is something that's very significant in an event like this. But as we said before, 30 ring muscle ups as a buy-in to an event is quite the bite to chew off of. As in the upper left corner of your screen, Patrick Vellner, no surprise there. He is already off the rings and moving on to his 30 meters of walking lunges with 50-pound dumbbells. Now, the trick here is that they are only allowed to lunge in 5-meter increments before they have to turn around and go back.
And that kind of is a little annoying. If you're good at the lunges and it's an area where you can kind of make up some ground, you have to turn around, so it kind of disrupts your rhythm. So this movement in this event is really more of just like your place to catch your breath. If you're doing the big sets of muscle ups, a lot of tension through your core, you'll be breathing a little heavy. This kind of is the place you need to breathe and catch your breath even though you're under a lot of tension. But your shoulders, Chase, that's what I'm looking at. We're getting those shoulders more fatigued. We can't really relax the shoulders at all here because of the dumbbells needing to balance. And then you're gonna need your shoulders for all those double unders. Deltoids are gonna be smashed in this event.
Patrick Vellner, still your leader, joined by the rest of the field. Again, 30 meters of dumbbell walking lunges as we are just past the 3-minute mark. And just to show you how fast 30 muscle-ups were completed, They're nearly done with their lunges inside the 330 mark. Patrick Vellner, upper left corner of your screen, onto the 300 double unders. Tanya, as you said, this is the first time in CrossFit Games history, starting with the open really, that double unders are now in an appropriate volume to test what we consider a monostructural movement in CrossFit, just like running, rowing, or biking.
And that's exactly right. We wouldn't see typically a 250-meter row thrown in an event. You know, we shouldn't anymore with the volume that these athletes are capable of doing with double unders, see those small numbers. And I love that we're seeing it. I hope we see more of this. You know, but it could be a trap, Chase, that 300, these athletes can well do 100. They can hold on for big sets, and it gets annoying to have to break up. But if they don't, they run the risk of getting their heart rate a little too high, shoulder fatigue, just arms burning a little bit, the grip being a little more taxed. So I'm anxious to see if anybody chooses to kind of hold on a little too long and if it affects any of their muscle ups.
I like how you say what breaks to choose. Mine is more natural breaks when it comes to high volume sets of double unders and my ability to get through. All athletes onto their first set of double unders, as this is a descending triplet from 30-20 down to 10. Obviously, we're doing 10 times the amount of double unders with those repetitions as we're approaching the 5-minute mark. This is a 25-minute capped event. Now, like we saw in event 2, a lot of these athletes are barely going to need a third of that time cap.
I'm watching Alex Vigneault in the bottom right of our screen here. He was not the first by any means to the rope, but he is crushing the double unders with his speed. So if he holds on to that, this could be the movement where he makes up some ground, and it could be a strategy for him to pace a little bit on the other two movements and then just crush the doubles.
Athletes looking very smooth and controlled as they're working through their first set of double unders, 300 repetitions before they go back to the rings. And the sign will be, Tanya, as always, is what is that first muscle up going to look like when they get to that second set of 20?
Well, and that's the thing. The athletes know how to break up 30 muscle ups for time. They know how to break up big volumes of what they're capable of. But whenever you compound movements that use the same muscles, they're not always doing this. So even if they tested this one, we are in competition mode. They are going a little bit faster. You have the adrenaline. So, you know, even though I'm sure that they are aware of what's coming, you never really know until you actually get started.
Just past the 6-minute mark as we're moving towards the 7, the time designated in the bottom right corner of your screen. You look just to the left, that is your event for event number 3. It started with 30 ring muscle ups into a 30-meter dumbbell front rack lunge and 300 double unders. Upper left corner of your screen, Patrick Vellner still in the lead as he moves to a set of 20 ring muscle ups. And Todd, as you said before, the most muscle ups we've ever seen programmed in a CrossFit competition has been 45, and this being 15 more total. And they've already started with 30. But no surprise here to see Vellner being so efficient on the rings.
He's a former gymnast, and he's always done very well, very efficient there. That was just a set of 10, and he's still going. That's really impressive. He's confident in these big sets, and that is what this event tests.
Jeffrey Adler in the bottom middle part of your screen. 3 reps into his first set of 20, and just to his right, in the bottom right, Alex Vigneault on the rings as well. Bottom left corner of your screen, Samuel Cournoyer chalking up. He is in the 4 part of your screen. As Dane Smith and Phil Toon in the top right are still on their first set of 300 double unders. It's just as I said, that Phil Toon in the far right corner of your screen is done. But it is all Pat Vellner, upper left corner, biting off huge sets on these ring muscle ups. As you work away from 30 down to 20, Tanya, this is a very important round to get ahead of the rest of the field, because in that set of 10, there's just not enough volume to make up ground.
No, and this was that middle round to just see how you were affected. And that's what I was going to say. Even though he took a little bit of a a longer break than, say, Jeffrey Adler. Some of the other athletes jump down and they come back up for a small set. Man, he still cranked through and had the capacity to do those big sets. So that tells me that these lunges and double unders at 300 didn't affect him. So this last round, he should be able to cruise through this for the last 10.
Vellner done with his 20 ring muscle-ups. Left corner of your screen, upper part. You can see that red progress bar is well over the halfway point so far, as he's on those 20 meters of lunges. And we thought the lunges were obviously really the break time for this event, because it's not a difficult movement to do. There's not a lot of volume for this particular one relative to the muscle-ups and the double under. So this is, I wouldn't say, quote, break time, but this is definitely one where you get that. There's always one movement where you get a little bit of a reprieve from the intensity. Vellner done with his 20 meters of lunges, and as he picks up his rope, moving into 200 double unders. Bottom middle part of your screen, Jeffrey Adler working through his second set of dumbbell front rack lunges. If you see Samuel Cournoyer in the bottom left part of your screen has a partner there to keep him going. So it's not double vision you see with Samuel Cournoyer. It's just it's nice to have a workout buddy in an event like this when you're working out in your own gym away from everybody.
That feels good. Somebody to pace off of, somebody to kind of push you, know that they're in the hurt just like you are. But Chase, I want to mention, I don't want to leave out the fact that Patrick Vellner is making this look really easy because of his proficiency in those muscle ups. I mean, you breathe really hard at that volume on the rings. And some of the other athletes, Dane Smith taking breaks, taking breathers, he's hunching over there in the top center box. That is to show you the effects of the movement, and I think it's just a testament to Pat Vellner's conditioning that he's not doing that now. I say that, and he's punched over a bit here after the double unders, but not from the rings. And so I think the fact that he could just go through those lunges as quickly as he did because he was not as ill-affected by the rings as some of the other athletes just shows how obviously this event is about the ring muscle ups. He is killing it there, and that's why he's ahead so far.
Top three so far, Pat Vellner, upper left corner of your screen, followed by Jeffrey Adler, fellow Canadian, in the bottom middle part. Adler made his top 5 showing at the games last year for the 2020 CrossFit Games, one of 5 men to qualify for Aromas. Known primarily for his strength and his short duration bursts, but hanging tough here with Pat Vellner. To your left, Samuel Cournoyer as well in the double unders, and Alex Vigneault. 2 falling behind the pack are Dane Smith above in the middle, and to his right, Phil Toon. Phil Toon actually having a great event number 2 yesterday. But it is still all Pat Vellner. Upper left corner of your screen, and he is taking one more break on that final set of double unders. This is what we wanted to see, right? CrossFit designates the double unders a monostructural movement. You would almost say it's a moderate skilled monostructural movement. And having an appropriate volume to test what a monostructural movement would test, we're finally seeing the athletes are good enough to test this high volume, and it's good to see it out there.
It's nice to see it. It's nice to see the effects that it's having on them, having to kind of stop, take the breather. And when you don't do that volume with the double unders, you can just kind of get into the habit of just kind of crushing them and not really working on them sometimes as much. But not after this year. Anybody that doesn't have those big sets proficient, I think they definitely will.
Pat Vellner to the rings for the last time. Upper left corner of your screen. 10 muscle ups. Normally that'd be a decent set for a multiple round event, but he's already done 50 to this point. So what's another 10? As Vellner will take one break inside that 10. So at the bottom part of your screen, in the middle, Jeffrey Adler is on the rings. Vellner had about a 30-second lead on Adler going into this last set. Vellner is done as he moves back to his dumbbells for one more final walking lunge. It'll be 5 meters down, 5 meters back. Samuel Cournoyer in the bottom left corner. Alex Vigneault on the right, also on their muscle-ups, but behind Adler, who splits the difference between them on the screen. But it is all Pat Vellner as he has to have one more step as he'll drop his dumbbells and he'll move into his final 100 double unders. Just to his right, Dane Smith working on his 200, Phil Toon on his. So Vellner is now lapping the field. Again, these are some of your top 6 on the leaderboard after 2 events. Vellner and Dane Smith were virtually tied at top of the leaderboard, but not after this event.
Chase, Alex Vigneault just went unbroken for his 10 muscle-ups.
Alex Vigneault in the bottom right part of your screen onto the lunges, so he's catching up to Cournoyer. Could be passing him here. As to his left, Jeffrey Adler on his final set of double unders, but just not enough room, as we said, in this last round with the 10, 10, and 100. It's going to be Pat Vellner leading wire to wire, end to end. And just a couple reps left to go. Pat Vellner will take event number 3 with a time of 14:13. First place with this grouping of 6.
That was very impressive. I'm not surprised he did that, but that was a very impressive and just an excellent way to execute that and to kind of show everybody that's how you should do this event.
Next in line, Jeffrey Adler, middle part of your screen, bottom row. His red progress bar nearly complete, and to his right, Alex Vigneault has moved solidly into 3rd place. And that'll do it for Jeffrey Adler. As I said, about 30 seconds behind coming into this final round, 30 seconds coming out. So like we said, not a lot of room to move in that final set. And we said that round of 20 is really the make or break for a lot of these athletes. Bottom row, Alex Vigneault to the bottom right. Nearly done with his last set, so he had a great end of his second round. Samuel Cournoyer on the left side onto his double unders. In the background of the bottom left corner of your screen, Vigneault taking 3rd from this top 6. Dane Smith in the upper middle, just getting to his final set of ring muscle-ups. As to his right, Phil Toon is through that and onto his last set of 100 double unders. And Samuel Cournoyer on the left side of your screen, nearly done with his event number 3. As he had his training partner pacing him through this entire event. I'm pretty sure he didn't want him to beat him, but who knows how many events his buddy did before he did this one with Cournoyer. So Cournoyer get 4th with this top 6 as your final 2, Phil Toon on the top right, Dane Smith just to his left. This is going to hurt Dane Smith on the leaderboard, who came in one of those top positions after 2 events.
He was tied with Pat Vellner with 176 points, so this is definitely not what Dane Smith needed, but Pat Vellner really is separating and making up some ground there, or separating Dane from him there with that overall spot.
Dane done with his final 10-meter lunge as he'll work his way through the double unders. Just to his right, Phil Toon. Great event number 2, struggling here in event number 3. Unofficial time of 16:39. Be 5th in this 6th grouping, as Dane Smith is just working through his final set of 100 double unders. And with an event like this, it does play to a particular athlete, Tony. You got such high volume muscle ups. That is really the big part about this. All these guys are going to be decent at double unders, some better than others, but the big separator is those muscle ups.
It's just the volume that it was, and that really was. It's a hard movement to be able to be good at with that kind of volume, unless that's something you always are practicing. And there just is a disparity between the move, especially with high-skill gymnastic movements.
Dane Smith almost done with event number 3. And he'll get an unofficial time of 17:35, but it was all Patrick Vellner with another first place in this top 6 grouping for event number 3.
All right, Patrick Vellner, man of the hour, event 3, coming in with his second win of the weekend. His speed and efficiency on the muscle-ups were what put him ahead of the pack. He actually started off with a 32-second lead and extended that lead when it came to the walking lunges. Did not take any breaks, did not put it down, and was really smooth on his double unders, taking timely breaks when he needed to save himself to get big sets on those muscle-ups, which allowed him to get through and take the event win.
Pat Vellner with an official time of 14:08. He actually had 5 seconds taken off of his time because it was determined that he did 5 too many double unders, hence the new time of 14:08 as the top 3 men all go sub 15, and Brent Fikowski in 10th place with a time of 16:30, his best finish so far. As far as the overall standings are concerned, Alex Vigneault goes from 7th to 5th. Dane Smith, he goes the other way. He moves from 1st to 7th. Jeffrey Adler, he goes from 6th all the way up to 2nd place overall, and he spoke with Mike Arsenault.
You were in 6th place after day 1, the first 2 events in the Atlas Games virtual semifinal. Did knowing that you were in 6th place on the precipice of qualifying into the top 5, did that impact how you approach events 3 or events 4?
I did not look at the leaderboard before I did event 3. And I'm doing the same today, so I'm not going to look at the leaderboard until I'm done with my last event of the day. But I mean, I'm giving everything I have, and hopefully this is going to be enough by the end of the weekend.
Jeffrey Adler now in 2nd place halfway through the Atlas Games, and this is the Jeffrey Adler we expected to see.
Definitely. You know, to date, there's only a handful of these top-level athletes that I think we could say are still getting better, and Jeffrey Adler is definitely one of them. So after finishing 5th at the CrossFit Games last year, he came back, won the Open this year, and that was courtesy of all top 50 finishes in all of the workouts. In the cross-continental comparison for the quarterfinals, he was 3rd overall. At this point, I think it's safe to say that Jeffrey Adler is not just looking to re-qualify for the Games, he's looking to podium at this year's Games, and so far he looks like he's on his way to do just that.
Let's get to women's event 3. Here are the overall standings after 2 events on Friday, and it was Carolyne Prevost. She was perfect after the first 2 events. She had a total of 200 points, and then it's Riley and Rayl. They are tied at 144 points for that 5th and final spot. We'll get you to our featured matchup now for the women for event number 3. Chase Ingram and Tanya Wagner have the call, and they begin with the box assignments presented by CBDMD.
Event 3 for the individual women about to get set as your top 6 athletes in the top 10 make their way here on your screen. Carolyne Prevost, your overall leader, sitting in the upper left corner of your screen, followed by Anikha Greer, Emily Rolfe, Mekenzie Riley, Baylee, Rayl, and Sydney Michalyshen. As 6 of your top 10 athletes are getting set for event number 3, we have this long, high-volume gymnastic event. We saw the men tackle this earlier, but Tanya, this is usually we have the rep volume for muscle-ups decrease between the men and the women. Here, all the same level playing field across. It's going to be a beast of an event.
Oh yeah, let's just see what these ladies can do with their 60 muscle-ups. I expect it to be a little bit slower. There's no need to rush these first 30. So a lot of these athletes, you're going to see them taking breaks, and that's what they should do. The name of the game for this and the key to this event is just keeping your muscle-ups strong and breaking before you need to. Don't go to failure. And managing the rest of the event, especially with those double unders, keeping your heart rate under control just so you can maximize these sets of your muscle ups. And you have to know that. You can't come into an event like this with high volume muscle ups and not know what sets you should be doing for how long you can maintain, whether it's 5s or 10s or whatever it may be. But these athletes need to maintain their big sets as long as possible.
Starting off with those 30 ring muscle ups. Once they get to those 30, they'll move to a 30-meter dumbbell front rack lunge, 35 pounds in each arm, as well as the 300 double unders on the back end. Then they'll move to 20, 20, 200, 10, 10, 100. You see at the top of every box, there is a red progress bar designating how far they've gone. Obviously, once that bar is completely full, you'll know they're at the very near end of their event, but Tanya, this is all about managing the muscle-ups for this particular event.
Yeah, you don't really get ahead by doing a big set and then taking a long break. So I would rather see the athletes do a few just strong reps, come down for a short break, jump back up for a few strong reps, rather than taking a long break. Carolyne Prevost was down there for a little while. She did a really big set, but I just don't know if that's the best game plan. She's a very well-rounded athlete. She knows herself with all different movements. She took first in both events yesterday. Today's a whole different set of events that she's going to tackle. She has her gymnastic movements. She has her muscle-ups nice and strong. So she's confident with these big sets, I guess. I just don't love seeing such a long break so early on in an event.
Time cap for this event is 25 minutes. And as these athletes are navigating their first 30 muscle-ups, breaking it up as much as needed. And Tanya, 30 ring muscle-ups it's not a benchmark workout, and I'm still waiting for it to be one, but that is one of those workouts where it is a milestone event, just like you would see with Fran or Helen or Grace. I feel like this one, I'm hoping this one gets a name one year.
I'm pretty sure the community has made it be a benchmark, but yes, there's never officially been given a name or been given anything, but it should be. I mean, being able to do muscle-ups, doing a few, but being able to do 30, hit that, that is just an impressive number. It is a workout in and of itself. We were talking about what year was the burpee muscle-up?
2013.
2013,
yes.
And but that had the burpee in there. We can't really count that. This is an entirely different whole event in itself is just 30 muscle-ups, but they get to just do that to get themselves started. The effects of these dumbbells now holding that front rack position. If there is shoulder fatigue, this is just going to compound as they hold these dumbbells in that front rack lunge. And then again, with all the double unders they have coming toward them. So it's going to be important that if they do feel that fatigue, wherever they feel it, to break up, shake things out, and make sure that they can keep themselves as just as fresh as they can, because that volume on the rings for anyone is a lot, and the ladies, typically that volume for ladies, we just have to see a speed change as opposed to the men.
And as we said before, 60 total ring muscle-ups for this event, for event number 3 for both the men and the women. The highest total of ring muscle-ups we've ever seen in any licensed or sanctioned CrossFit event. But first to the double unders, it looks like bottom left corner of your screen was Mekenzie Riley, followed by Baylee, Rayl, and Michalyshen. So your bottom 3 so far faster than your top 3.
That may be the case that they needed to push the pace on those lunges as they weren't the first off the ring. So maybe this is where we're going to see them kind of push their tempo and give themselves a little bit more time on the rings.
300 double unders is the total volume for the first round. And this is finally a volume that we saw in the open when we had the 210, 150, and 90. Usually in the open you have sets of 30 to 35. I think the most we saw in one setting was 100 one year. But now we're seeing big chunks of double unders programmed in this 2021 game season that are more related or relatable to a monostructural bout like you would see with a long distance row, run, or bike. And I'm here for it. I'm glad to finally see that they've had a challenging level of double unders because the athletes have gotten so proficient at this movement. Now it's about challenging with volume.
You have to just match the level when they get there, match it or beat it, or push that line farther to make them, improve and give them a reason to keep practicing bigger sets, bigger volume. I know for a while people were expecting to see the triple under, but I like that we're sticking with doubles and just keep it. I like that, but we're seeing just a bigger volume. They had this in their qualifier. They had a bigger set as well, in with those shoulder to overhead and handstand push-up event. And so, I like that they're gonna feel the effects of them.
I think if triple unders make their way into CrossFit competition, I will officially retire from competition season to have those come out. Yeah, full-time sideline coach or broadcast. Those who can't do teach, I believe is the phrase. Your 6 athletes working into their first set. Again, 300 total double unders. Even if you have it all dialed in and you have a great set, that's still going to take north of 3 minutes. So you're looking for 3 to 4 minutes on average for these athletes to finish their first 300. But on top of the 30 ring muscle ups, the 30 meters of holding those dumbbells in the rack position, is that first set of 20 ring muscle ups. I think you're really going to see who's going to separate themselves from the pack going into this middle round.
Yeah, and I think that's why we're seeing the breaks. We're seeing these sets, and then the athletes just standing there for a little bit. They're at a casual pace because they need to be, and that's smart.
Approaching the 8-minute mark, the time cap for this event is 25 minutes. All athletes have already completed 30 ring muscle ups, 30 meters of front rack lunges with the dumbbells, and 300 double unders. And first off the double unders, bottom left corner of your screen, she was first in, she's first out, Mekenzie Riley. New mom.
So impressed with Mekenzie Riley. You take a mom, muscle ups are so hard to get back with that core strength needed for that big turnover and just that snap through your core. She looks very strong coming back here on the rings. And again, for moms jumping all that, the double unders, that's a lot of double unders. She looks so great. I'm just being honest here, but no, she looks very strong. You know, but she's a smart athlete. She's been around for a long time, and having a baby, I think it even, just like when you're out on injury, when your body adapts, your mind makes gains. Your mind has to do things and take you places that that aren't possible if you're always healthy and you're always at capacity. But I really feel like she's digging into what she's capable of doing, just relying on her previous games experience and all of her competition and competitive background. She's staying relaxed. I'm so glad to see her here. She's always fun to watch. She's fantastic, and I'm really impressed with this event for her so far.
Definitely one of the veterans of the sport in this grouping of 6. It is Mekenzie Riley at the bottom left, early leader. Close behind her is a cluster of 3 athletes between Baylee Rayl in the bottom middle, Sydney Michalyshen to the right, and Emily Rolfe in your upper right corner. And one athlete we have yet to say get to her rings is your overall leader after 2 events, and that's Carolyne Prevost in the upper left corner of your screen, who is still on her final, or her 300 double unders, as Anikha Greer just to her right in the top middle is now to her ring. So Prevost, of all the movements we've seen so far, it's the double unders that are causing her the most trouble.
And I'm surprised, I really am. She's such a well-rounded athlete, and you know, I wonder if it's the fatigue of everything. She took a big long break with those muscle ups. She was taking big sets, but then really long breaks. So I wonder if everything's just compounding and making this movement even that much harder for her.
Top 4 athletes, Mekenzie Riley, bottom left corner of your screen, followed by Baylee Rayl just to her right, and then Sydney Michalyshen, all at the bottom part of the row. Emily Rolfe, top right corner of your screen, keeping pace with these 4, as Anikha Greer in the upper middle is on her rings, and Carolyne Prevost has yet to really do anything so far in that second round.
I don't know if that's her coach. Someone is coming over here, kind of talking with her, kind of, I guess, giving some encouragement here. And you know, there are some movements you just have to time. I'm not a big fan of like always pacing, because I feel like when you get too, I don't know, too complacent with just your pacing overall, and I feel like people should be able to adapt to different things. But there are some movements, and muscle ups are one of them. You have to know your rest to work ratio, handstand push-ups, some of our higher skilled gymnastic movements. When you take a break, look at the clock, see where you're at, know how much better it could be if you did fewer reps, and how much makeup time there that you can make if you have a shorter rest period. But I just don't feel like that's happening. I feel like Carolyne's doing these big sets and then waiting for an awful long time.
Meanwhile, Mekenzie Riley and Baylee Rayl are your top 2 for event number 3 so far. Mekenzie Riley on the bottom left corner of your screen. To her right in the middle screen is Baylee Rayl. Mekenzie taking a little bit of a break. Actually, no, she's done already, so she's moving into her 200 double unders. Again, she made her move here on the 300 in the previous round, as Baylee Rayl to her right, taking a little bit of a breather before she starts her first set of double unders. And then your next two in line behind them are Emily Rolfe and Sydney Michalyshen on the right side, both top and bottom row. They have about 10 of the 20 meters left to go for their dumbbell rack lunges. Again, the weight is 35 pounds. So we are at the halfway mark to that 25-minute time cap, the time designated on the bottom right side of your screen. To the left is the event, as we are into the second round, the final 200 double unders of the second round, before we move into that third and final one. And this is the round where a lot of athletes need to make their move. It's a little less reps in the first round, which you need to manage. And then, as we said before, there's just not enough at the end unless you just blow up on the rings to really make a charge here. So this middle round is hugely important for these athletes.
It is, and you know, that last round, like you said, either you implode on the rings, or if you pace it properly throughout and you can hold on to a little bigger set, 2 sets of 5 even, you could really get ahead for any of the other athletes that weren't able to do that, and they slowed down their pacing, or their chunks of reps had to go down to 2s or 3s.
At the top of every box is a red progress bar that designates how far they've gone in the event, as it slowly eats up the gray as the bar progresses from left to right. 25-minute time cap for this event. Your overall leader after 2 events is the upper left corner of your screen. It was Carolyne Prevost, as she is last in this grouping of 6. You know, there are 24 other women that have done this event. These are just 6 of your top athletes coming out of event 1 and 2. And Prevost, who looked very good yesterday in events 1 and 2, is just quite the opposite in this event for event number 3.
She had 2 perfect events, taking first in both workout 1 and workout 2 yesterday. So this one will not be great for her, obviously, as the other ladies are well ahead, and there's just no room here for her to make that up, because Mekenzie Riley's already back on those ring muscle ups and looking really strong through this first set.
Mekenzie Riley, bottom left corner of your screen, bites off a set of 5 or 6 in this set of 10. So she is already into her final round. Baylee Rayl to her right is taking a huge break, as she is done with her second round, but has yet to get to the rings.
Yeah,
so Mekenzie Riley is extending her lead extensively off Baylee. Baylee has still yet to get to the rings, and it's been about 40 seconds.
Yeah, and that's where that fast doing your double unders that fast, does it cost? I mean, that doesn't pay off right there when you have to wait that long.
Now that big break has now opened the door for the top right part of your screen, Emily Rolfe, who looks very proficient on the ring. So Baylee Rayl has yet to take a break. So if she were to go unbroken here, she actually might end up catching Mekenzie Riley.
Wow,
so Riley
that is
on
so
the
impressive.
bottom left, Rayl to the right, hits all 10, and I'll just sit back and shut my mouth about your pacing strategy, because now Rayl has put herself right back into contention for first place.
That was so impressive. So we talked about whether people would implode. She paced it the right way to be able to make up some ground there, knowing probably that the rest of the field are going to fall off. That was really impressive, Chase. I'm speechless right now.
Quick down and back, Mekenzie Riley on the left, done with her 10-meter lunge. She had a 45-second lead on Baylee Rayl, who's in the bottom middle screen just to the right of her. And little did we know that Baylee Rayl was just taking that giant break to go 10 muscle-ups unbroken, and found herself right back into contention, where we thought she was about to get passed by Emily Rolfe in the top right side of your screen, but Rolfe still on the rings. So your race for 1 and 2 on the bottom left corner of your screen. Mekenzie Riley on the left has been leading this entire way, but that 10 unbroken set of ring muscle-ups from Baylee Rayl has put her right back into contention for first. Progress bar for Mekenzie Riley just above her box, nearly complete, so Rayl is behind by just a few reps, and Mekenzie Riley, if she can hang on to this last set of double unders, she may take the win. And it'll be Mekenzie Riley with a time of 17:10. Good enough for first in this grouping and first overall unofficially for women's event number 3. And what a way to hold on at the end. But Baylee Rayl, what more can you say is that what we thought was someone imploding after the second round was just her gearing up to have a hard charge to the finish, and she'll get second place unofficially in this grouping at 17:26.
It did work for her in this grouping, but Chase, still, I'm wondering with that type of capacity at the end, she may still have been better off jumping up and hitting a first set, even not, with less rest, resting even shorter in between. I still think she could have made up even more time.
I think you're 100% correct, because she, like we said, she took almost a 45-second break between finishing her dumbbell or her last set of double unders and then 2 of the muscle ups, and she's only 16 seconds behind Mekenzie Riley. You're right, Tanya, as Rolfe takes third overall at 18:06, is that why not just go up there? Clearly you have the capacity and her fatigue. Hit a set of 6, rest 15 seconds, do a set of 4, and that could have put her in the lead overall.
And that's what I mean, because Mekenzie Riley looked like she was trying for a bigger set, but she ended up going her 5 or 6 on the first set, then 3 and 2. So with those two rest periods, she minimized those rests as much as possible. She had to come down off the ring. But Baylee really, with how strong she was, I really think she could have even hit 5 and 5 with less rest in between, and she may have been able to take Mekenzie on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 athletes still left on the competition floor. Sydney Michalyshen, she's on the bottom right side of your screen, into her last set of 100 double unders, and she's in a tight race with Anikha Greer in the upper middle row. As to the left side, Carolyne Prevost just getting to her first set on the round of 10. And it really has come down to the double unders, and I'm starting to wonder if it's not something that isn't fitness related that's holding her back. Carolyne Prevost isn't bad at double unders.
No, and she's still, look how strong she looks here in the rings too. So, double unders, if it's an ankle or a foot, Carolyne Prevost has done many sports through her lifetime. Is there something that they just irritate and bother her? I know some athletes that have that issue.
And Prevost just ripped off 10 in a row as Anikha Greer finishes in 4th in this grouping. So it's not the rings, it's not the lunges. There is something going on with Carolyne Prevost in those double unders that is unlike anything we've seen for her before. Sydney Michalyshen, she's done it 1944 as Carolyne Prevost. 10 unbroken muscle ups, no problem with the lunges, but it has been this volume of double unders that have been her Achilles heel so far. And she has 100 reps to go. 5 minutes left before we hit the cap. I don't see that being an issue for Prevost at all. But it is, the question remains is what is going on with the double unders?
Yeah, just even that first set right there to get tripped up after 2 or 3.
And we said we said before is this high volume test of ring muscle ups where there were no rings whatsoever in the open or the quarterfinals to get to the semi. So I think when you think about just almost an absurd amount of ring muscle ups for 60 total to be tested at the 3rd position for this game's season, we saw high volume muscle ups, or high volume double unders in the open. That got you to your 10%. However, we didn't see it as extensively in the quarterfinals. So maybe it was making the top 10% and not having as many in the quarterfinals that got her to this position.
And it just wouldn't be as glaring then of a weakness or as an area, because we haven't tested it like you were talking about earlier. You know, she does have that arm bend, jumping really high. She is more inefficient with this jump, so whether that's just her technique that she is using or is just not as efficient with them either. But they're definitely more labored, and she's not as relaxed as some of the other athletes that we saw.
Carolyne Prevost working through her final set of 100 double unders. She was your overall leader. And as you said before, she won back-to-back events to start the weekend. And this is a tough break for Carolyne Prevost to start day number 2.
Now looking back, thinking about, you know, how aggressive she was with those muscle-ups, how aggressive she was through the other parts and components of the event, that's probably why. She knew she had to get here, and these were going to be the struggling point. Then good on her to be as fast as she could, you know, and do as much as she could to give herself the time here where she needs it.
We are 2 minutes away from the 25-minute cap that we didn't think anybody was in danger from, and Prevost is just all over the place. She's done almost a full 360, trying to get those 100 double unders in as she's done. So damage control for Prevost. So it's going to be an interesting leaderboard after 3 events.
Event 3 came down to the battle of lead changes between Baylee Rayl and Mekenzie Riley. Baylee Rayl was making fast work of her muscle-ups in the beginning where she was taking methodical rests, whereas Mekenzie Riley was fast and efficient on the lunges. They battled all the way to the last round of lunges where Mekenzie Riley stepped her way to a victory.
Mekenzie Riley, 17-10, picks up 100 points in the event win as the top 3 women all go sub-18, and it's China Cho and Emily Rolfe rounding out the top 5 for event number 3. Your overall standings as a result of that win, Mekenzie Riley goes from 5th all the way to 1st. Anikha Greer, she slides down 1 spot, as does Carolyne Prevost, but both Prevost and Greer still inside the top 5, and Anikha Greer spoke with Mike Arsenault.
Okay, Anikha, I want you to take me back to yesterday afternoon because you do events 1 and events number 2, and you're probably refreshing the leaderboard over and over again. Finally, it's updated, and you see yourself in 2nd place after the first 2 events. What was going through your mind?
I was actually super surprised, to be quite honest. I knew Fran was going to be one of my better workouts, so I knew I was going to have a good score on that first workout. But on workout 2, I had a little mishap halfway through. I blew up pretty hard, as I know a lot of people did, but I wasn't crazy happy with my time. So I was a little unsure of where that was going to put me, and I was like fully prepared to be lower on the leaderboard than I wanted to be and to have to fight my way back up. But when it came out and I ended up only being like 11th on that second one, I was pleasantly surprised. So that was a nice way to start the weekend for sure.
2 weeks ago, we were talking about Mal O'Brien and Emma Carey as far as the future of the sport is concerned. I think Anikha Greer deserves to be in that conversation as well.
Definitely, and unlike both Carey and O'Brien, Anikha doesn't have any games experience. She actually just missed qualifying for the games in both 2018 and 2019, and then get this, she qualifies last year in the 16 to 17-year-old division, and there is no games for her. So you can bet that Anikha is hungry to qualify for the games. To me, Sean, the fact that she got 6th place on an event that had 60 muscle-ups at 18 years old is just strikingly impressive. And I think that she very much should be in the conversation with both Mal O'Brien and Emma Carey at this point.
One event remains for day 2 at the Atlas Games, and we will have featured matchups for both the men and the women for event 4. And we will also have a complete day wrap-up of all the action going on at the CrossFit Asia Invitational, as well as the West Coast Classic, So stick around to the CrossFit Games YouTube channel, as well as the CrossFit Games Facebook page for all of that. For Andy Sakamoto, I'm Sean Woodland. Thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy this final weekend of the 2020 No Bull CrossFit Games semifinals.